yeah, so it is a quote unquote gold digger, but it's also a man who wants to buy the company of someone who might not otherwise be interested in him if he wasn't so successful. So I think there's a give and a take in that relationship.
I think that's very fair. Have you seen examples of the latter example where you described that billionaire where there's not many redeeming qualities, where they're heading towards marriage, they don't yet have a prenup. You're maybe advising them that they should get a prenup, and they're not interested because they're so deluded by the belief that the person is interested in their wonderful personality or...
Yeah. So the prenup conversation is a really interesting one because I do a lot of prenups. Sure. A prenuptial agreement is a contract between two people that defines the rule set essentially for their marriage. So marriage, when we talk about marriage, people tend to just sort of use the word marriage, and they're actually talking about a number of different things. Like in some contexts, marriage is a spiritual commitment, right? It's a religious commitment. It's tied to, in Catholicism, it's a sacrament. In Judaism, it's a covenant with God. In Islam, it has its own status. So marriage exists as a religious concept. Socially, we have a definition of marriage, right? Like I am married to this person. We have married our destinies to each other. We have agreed that we are each other's person. And then marriage has a specific legal definition. And my job as a divorce lawyer is to take that piece apart for someone or to create protections for people who are contemplating entering into that legal status. So like you've been to weddings, right? I'm sure you've never at the end of the wedding said, great guys, I had a wonderful time. The cake was delicious. I need to see the paperwork. Can I see the license now? I just want to make sure everything was done properly and that there were witnesses. You've never said that. You've never said to your parents, can I see your marriage license? I'd like to make sure everything's in order here. That's not how it works. We don't do that. So you could go have a wedding and tell people that you're married and never actually legally marry. You could just tell people that you're married. You don't check people's paperwork. Like you can just wear a ring if you want to. And similarly, if you don't wear a ring, it doesn't mean you're not legally married. Like you could be legally married and still take your ring off and you're still legally married. If it was just as easy as taking the ring off, I'd be out of a job.
But he needs to talk about the common law situation. Because some people, you'd like to do that in some states, just because you don't marry that woman and you guys live in the same house for so many years and people see you as a couple, the common law marriage is going to get you. And this is for the guys who fear that if they get married, the woman will take half. If you're living with that woman under the same roof, you guys got kids for so many years. For some states, could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Common law could count you guys as married. So you have to check the common laws in your state if you're trying to avoid marriage, but you live with this woman. Because if she decides to leave, she could still take half, even if you guys didn't get legally married on paper.
Marriage is a legal status. That's one of the meanings of marriage. And a prenuptial agreement, the way I would describe it, is two people deciding that they, having picked each other out of 8 billion people to choose from in the world, are in a better position to make the rules that will govern the economics of their relationship than the legislature would be, than politicians would be. And anyone who's ever been to the Department of Motor Vehicles or who's ever been to, any government agency, very rarely would you interact with a government agency and go, we should definitely put these people in charge of our family life. Like they're going to do a great job. They're really crushing it, Like that's not something people, yet most people who are married have almost no idea what legal rights and obligations were conferred on them by getting married. They just have no idea. It's the most legally significant thing they're going to do in their life other than die. And they have no idea what their rights and obligations are. And those rights and obligations can change. So like politics and the legislature and the way that rules that govern the spousal support rights, child support rights, the division of property, those are subject to change by government change. So for example, in the United States, alimony, spousal support, maintenance, whatever we want to call it, which is a payment a person makes to their spouse when there's been an economic disparity in the marriage and now they're getting divorced. That used to be tax deductible. It used to have no formula. It was at the discretion of a judge. Then in 2016, Trump came into office and he said, yeah, I'm not letting it be tax deductible anymore. So completely changed. Now, you're already married at this point. And now the rules about what governs your marriage have changed. So there aren't a lot of contracts in the world that people could enter into that the terms could wildly change due to circumstances beyond your control, and you're still in that same contract. So prenuptial agreements are designed for two people who at that moment have an abundance of affection for each other. If they didn't, then there's no reason that they should be getting married, that they make up a rule set that's going to govern their relationship.
And that,
Yeah, but most women don't like prenups because they're gonna say, "Oh, you think I just want you for your money? You think I want to? Are you calling me a gold digger?" But it's like men have seen examples of different women who claim they are in love with a man, and then divorced him, and then they want 50%. Have you guys seen that meme on Instagram or social media in general that women want men who are 100% providers, right? But when it comes to divorce, they want to go 50-50. So women don't want a man who to go to in a 50. They don't want to be in a 50-50 relationship. In other words, they don't want to be paying 50% of the bills. But when a divorce happens, then they want to take 50% of the of the asset. It's like, I thought you don't want to do 50-50. So go the way you came and I go the way I come.
typically, as we see it in movies and such, and we hear about it in culture, is really deciding who gets what when they break up, right?
Correct. Now, it's hard to say in advance who gets what when we break up sometime in the future, because we don't know what we're going to have in 10 years, in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You create structures. Like you create, I refer to the simplest prenup as a yours, mine, and ours, which is if it's in my name, whether it's an asset or a liability, it's mine, free from any claim by you, free from any obligation to you. If it's in your name, it's yours, free from any claim by me, any obligation to me. Ours, if it's in our joint names, then we're equally responsible for it if it's an obligation, or we equally are entitled to half the value of it if it's an asset. That to me, just creating those three buckets. Now here's the problem. You create those three buckets, you both sign off on it and you get married. You can't just set it and forget it now. You actually have to have conversations with this person that you're married to, which theoretically you should be able to do, right? Like if you've decided this is going to be my primary relationship, this is the person I'm going to tie my destiny to, you should be able to talk about, hey, I just got this big bonus at work. I'm going to put this much in my sole account and I'm going to put this much in the joint account. And then you should be able to say, if you're the other person, well, why are you putting so much of it in your personal account? Like, things weird with us or something?
Most women would get offended. If a man gets $1 million and is like, hey, listen, I'm going to put $800,000 in my personal account and I'm going to put $200,000 in our joint, most women are going to say something about it.
Or is there, have some conversation again about why are we marrying? It's that economy concept, which is, look, what do I owe you if I marry you?
Nothing.
I'd like to know that in advance because people say to me all the time, well, I married this person and when we got married, he had nothing. He had nothing. And he built his business while he was married to me. And I was very, there for him while he was building it. So therefore, I believe I'm entitled to half the value of that business. Now,
women.
That's a logical argument. I don't know that I agree with it, but it's logical.
I don't agree either.
Keep going with that logic, right? So if that was true, and I built this business and my wife, who was married to me while I was building that business, she helped make that. Okay, well, her mother and father helped make who she is. So I owe them something, right? Because if they hadn't done what they did, I wouldn't have her. And if I didn't have her, I wouldn't have my business. So how much do I owe them? And now that I think about it, her grandmother definitely influenced who her mother was, which influenced who she was, which influenced what she did for me. So can you let me know in advance how far down the chain do I owe people and how much do I owe them? They can't all get half. So did they get half of the half of the half? Or do I and if this is the logic that we're going to follow, then I would like to know in advance what that is, because there are no other transactions where if you went in to purchase a car and you said, how much is this car? And they said, money. he said, well, how much? It's a good amount. Okay. Again, we just keep talking in abstractions. I'd like to know, what does this add up to? How much is it? And
actually, it's a real thing that these days, if a man talks about a prenup, actually, women are saying a man who talks about a prenup before they get married is a red flag. I'm not kidding you guys. Women don't like men who talk about prenups because they don't want men who are smart. They don't want men who know the repercussions of divorce. They would rather get a man who has money but doesn't know anything that happens when a divorce happens. Because women usually do the math. When a woman meets you, she knows, she sizes you up right away. She's like, okay, he makes this much money. If I divorced him, this is how much he would pay me. If he was to, give me child support, this is how much he makes. They know from the beginning, from the first time they meet you, especially once they find out what job you have and how much money you make, they do the math in their heads. Okay, if I divorce him, or if there's child support, or okay, this is how much he can give me for rent, this is how much he can give me. So they know, they do the math, but they would rather you as a man not put it in your mind what would happen if they divorced you. They would rather you have no idea. They would rather you're just in love and, Disney fantasy, you find the love of your life, and then boom, divorce. You find out you got to lose half.
Even if you can't make it a dollar number, it's X% of last year's earnings, or like give me a formula, something to tie it to, and at least have that conversation, because then you can decide, am I going to sign up for this thing or not?
You must meet a lot of people who are in a relationship where one of the people doesn't want to have a prenup.
Yes.
Because when I think about having a prenup, I'm with a woman at the moment. We've been together for 5 years. Frankly, if I said to her, I want to get a prenup, she would be all for it. That's the type of person she is. She would be all for it. Doesn't care. She'd be all for it.
Excellent. You've done well.
But I can imagine in other relationships, I'd be nervous to even say the words, because immediately you're thinking about how you're getting out before you get in.
Yeah, because they get offended.
Well, and there's a lot to that. There's a lot to unpack there. So the first thing I would say is all marriages end. They end in death or they end in divorce, but they all end, right? And so if you said, I'm going to get life insurance, it would be foolish for someone who's with you to say, wait, are you planning on dying soon? But in the event that I do, I'd like to make sure that things are taken care of in a certain way. And in the event that I do, there's going to be enough things to be upset and sad about for the people around me. So I'd like them to have one less thing, and I also know that there's a possibility. I hope I won't, but there's a possibility that I'm going to die in an hour. So I'd really hope it doesn't happen, but I can't say it's definitely not going to happen. So divorce, when we look at statistics like that, it's okay to say, hey, look, you know what? I hope this never happens. But if it did, what do we owe each other? What would you need? Like, it's not just a conversation about what do I want to keep? What am I entitled to keep? It's also, well, what would you need?
Have you seen it break down a marriage because someone mentioned a prenup? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen marriages that were scheduled to happen not happen because the prenup discussion happened. But more often than not, I've seen the threat of not marrying someone because they want you to sign a prenup cause a person to fold in their request for a prenup, which to me is a really bad start for a marriage. So I've had a lot of clients who come in, say, look, I want to have a prenup. I have a lot of confidence in this marriage. I really love this person, but I would like to, have a prenup in place. And I draft a prenup for them, and it has reasonable terms, and they give it to their fiance, and their fiance says, yeah, I'm not signing that. It's not happening.
And I can guarantee you those were the women. I can guarantee you it was the women who said, you know what? I don't want to sign the prenup. So which lets you know that in the beginning, they were about the money and they were hoping the guy doesn't know about prenups. Most women, in my opinion, would rather find a man who doesn't know nothing about prenups and just get married just for the sake of it, rather than a man who knows about prenups. Even if they love the guy, they would leave him if he brings up the conversation about prenups. And what happens is that men also get scared to ask, like this guy said, like, because he makes lots of money. But he's like, I would be scared to bring up the prenup conversation with some women. And some guys get married like that because they don't want to lose the woman. So rather than bring up the conversation of prenup, they're like, I don't want to lose her. If I bring up the conversation about prenup, she's going to refuse to marry me. So most men don't do it. And then they regret 10 years later. But anyway, That's it for today, guys. I want to take an opportunity and thank everybody who's in the chat, everybody who has been with me from the beginning. I'll be back tomorrow for another live stream, so don't go nowhere. All right. But until then, like the video as you head out. Don't forget, I'll be back here tomorrow with other videos to go through with you guys. So until then, it's been a pleasure. Peace.